So I'm actually going to be trying to do something a little bit different in this video that I've never personally done. I haven't done this on the channel before, and I'm really interested to see how this is going to go because this is going to be a longer AFL video than what I usually do. And of course, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I'm actually going to be predicting the AFL ladder now that we've got some evidence of how teams are going to go in the first couple rounds, and I'm going to be predicting the ladder game by game. So of course, this video will probably come out very early on into round 3 that we're in, of course, right now. And as we know, some of the games will be done and some of them might not be completely accurate to this video. But for the first, round 3, I'm going to be going based off the tips that I already have. So you guys can tell me in the comments if I got those games wrong for this round, because I wouldn't be surprised if I definitely get one wrong. But yeah, we're doing a ladder predictor here, round by round on the AFL website. It's a little bit different, and to be honest, it's very hard to say because once you get to like round 5 and 6 and whatnot, from there on, it's way too hard to actually predict what's going to be happening, because some teams could have a bunch of injuries and go to completely crap, while some teams could stay completely healthy and just go on an absolute tear, similar to what Hawthorn did last year, where they started 0-6 and rose up the ladder. So please don't go in the comment section down below and threaten my whole entire family tree if you do disagree. Again, I'm going to be going off these games based on how I think the teams are going to continue to perform this year, how I think, if there will be any upsets and what will those upsets be, the surprise games and whatnot, all of the above. So yeah, I'm very excited to get into it. But before we do, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please don't forget to make sure to do that for all the latest AFL content, as well as leaving a like on this video to let me know you guys enjoy it. But I guess without further ado, let's just get straight into it. Okay, so I really didn't know what the best way to film this video was, so I've created this little overlay here. Again, you can see my Instagram and my gaming channel, Crofty7, right there as well, if you want to go check them out. But we got this overlay here, got the face cam, and of course, the game. So again, we're going to be starting off with Port Adelaide. I think I have them winning. I've also got the Dogs winning. I've got the Suns beating Melbourne, the Saints beating the Tigers, Hawthorn beating the Giants, and Brisbane beating Geelong, Adelaide beating, of course, North, and Fremantle beating West Coast. So that's the first games that we have for the first round. Those are what I think I tipped in my ladder predictor video. At least I hope. Again, you guys can see the official ladder right here too, which is really cool. Again, starting off with the first game now. This is round 4. So this is when we're getting serious here. We've of course got Collingwood versus Carlton. Again, I feel like Carlton have to get a win eventually, and I just don't know when it's going to be, because I think Collingwood will get them here. Geelong should beat Melbourne in Geelong. I want to say Gold Coast are going to beat Adelaide. That's going to be massive, because Adelaide, even though they're playing really good footy right now, I think Gold Coast are very good and they should win at home there. And I think Brisbane will take care of Richmond. I think the Swans will get North at Marvel. And yeah, I think, we're going to have Giants beating West Coast. Port should beat St Kilda at Adelaide Oval. And Freo should be getting their season back on track here and beating the Western Bulldogs at Optus Stadium. Again, starting back up the list now, we've of course got the Adelaide Crows versus Geelong. I'm going to have Geelong going over to Adelaide and beating them. We also got Collingwood versus Sydney now. This is on a big Friday night clash for gather round. So, yeah, that's a tough one. I think Collingwood are a very good side right now. They should beat Sydney there. North versus Gold Coast. I'm going to have North getting a win here. Gold Coast, we still have to see how they go away from home. Carlton should beat West Coast here. I think that's their first win on the board. Western Bulldogs versus Brisbane. Am I going to do a little surprise win here and give that to the Dogs, because maybe the Dogs, they should have some guys back by then? I might do that. We'll give it to the Dogs. Melbourne versus Essendon. Let's give it to Melbourne. Richmond versus Freo. Freo should beat Richmond here. In St Kilda versus Giants. I feel like Saints are usually actually pretty good at Adelaide, in Adelaide, but You got to go to the Giants. Again, Port Adelaide versus Hawthorn. I think this might be the Hawks' first L. We'll give that to Port Adelaide. They should get it on the home soil. Again, Collingwood versus Brisbane. Collingwood typically have a pretty good track record, I feel personally, in Brisbane, but we'll still go the Lions. So you get the home team in. Again, I think Carlton will beat North at Marvel. Oh, jeez. West Coast versus Essendon at Optus. I'm going to go West Coast, which puts Essendon in last. Like, I would not have predicted that for the start of the year. But what we've just seen from their football, I really don't know. Again, Melbourne versus Fremantle at the G. I'm going to give this one to the Dockers. They're going to get a win at home here. Adelaide versus Giants at Adelaide Oval. I think Adelaide will get a little upset. And we've got Richmond versus Gold Coast. I know Gold Coast took care of Richmond at Marvel last year, so I'll back them in. Sydney versus Port Adelaide at the G. We'll go Sydney. The Dogs taking on St Kilda at Marvel. Could this be a surprise win for the St Kilda Football Club? They got to get a win or two somewhere along the line. Again, Geelong versus Hawthorn. We'll go Hawthorn at the G. We'll back that in, I think. Again, I'm not going to agree with half these once the video is done. I'm going to be completely changing my mind, ladies and gentlemen. I guarantee half of these I'm going to be like, what were you thinking when you did that? Again, the G, Richmond versus Melbourne. Melbourne should get the win there. The G, Collingwood versus Essendon. I can't give it to Essendon. I just can't. Again, Fremantle versus Adelaide at Optus. We'll give that to Freo. St Kilda versus Brisbane at Marvel. Brisbane should take care of them. Port should beat North at Adelaide Oval, which is crazy. They're jumping into the 4 now. 5 and 2 I've got them at. It's so hard to know where Port is at. Because they could fall down, but they play a lot of really early games at Adelaide Oval where they shouldn't be losing at all. Again, the Dogs versus Giants. I think the Giants will get the win. Gold Coast versus Sydney. Oh, jeez. This is a really tough one. It's at Gold Coast home, but I might back Sydney in. You can really go either way with that one. Again, Carlton versus Geelong at the G. Geelong should really beat them. And obviously, Hawthorn should beat the Eagles there. Again, we've got now at the very top, all the way up here, Essendon versus North at Marvel. This is where Essendon will get their first win of the year. Again, I think Freo should beat St Kilda at Saints home. The Dogs will beat Port at Mars. It's a good venue for them. The Crows could very well go to Adelaide and just beat Carlton. And I think that's what I'm going to be backing in, which puts them in third. God damn, they're having a good year. Again, on the G, a big night. Geelong versus Collingwood. I'm going to back in Geelong to beat them. West Coast versus Melbourne Optus. I think this is where West Coast are going to get a win here. Again, the SCG Sydney versus the Giants. I'll back in GWS to beat them. And then, of course, Richmond versus Hawthorn at the G. Oh, we'll go Hawthorn, sorry. You guys are probably like, no way he's betting Richmond. I guess as a Richmond fan, that hurts. But we aren't playing good against Hawthorn in recent years. Might go Gold Coast, get an upset against Brisbane at the Gabba. I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. I think they could do that. They're a little sniff. Fremantle versus Collingwood at Optus. I think Collingwood will go over there and beat them. Oh, geez, Carlton should beat St Kilda at the G. Hawthorn should beat Melbourne at the G. Sydney should go and take care of Essendon. This one will be, I think, an easy Gold Coast win because they are so good in the Northern Territory. Just no teams really stand a chance against them up there, which puts them into second place. My God. Port Adelaide against Adelaide. I'll back in Adelaide to get a win over their rivals. I think Richmond should beat West Coast at the G, which might surprise some, but I'll put that in. Geelong will beat GWS at GMHBA. And at Ninja Stadium, I don't know where Ninja Stadium is. Can I look at that real quick? Where is Ninja Stadium? Oh, it's in Tasmania. Where? I would not have even had a clue. What's the sponsor Ninja for? I don't even know. On sponsorship reasons, known as Ninja Stadium. What is Ninja? Is that... I don't even know. I'm pretty sure I have an idea of what it is, but I feel like I could also be wrong. So, I'm not sure on that one. Again, I guess Brisbane should beat them even though it's in Tasmania. Yeah, Essendon in last is flat out insane. Round 10 now. I think, again, Gold Coast should win in the Northern Territory. They're so goddamn good up there. At least that is TO Stadium, isn't it? I'm not tripping out here. Yeah, Northern Territory Stadium. So I think Gold Coast, you back them in to actually beat Hawthorn there, which it makes them second, which is kind of crazy. Again, I think Sydney will beat Carlton at the SCG. Collingwood will take care of Adelaide. I think Geelong will go up and beat Port at their home. GWS should beat Freo at NG. Again, you know what? I'll give the Dons a win here. They'll beat the Western Bulldogs at Marvel. At the G, Richmond versus North. I'm going to go Richmond. I'm going to legit back in Richmond to beat North at the G. I think they could. Brisbane will beat Melbourne at the Gabba. Let's get West Coast to beat the Saints over there, which puts Essendon in last. Still, my God, they are just not having a good run on my thing at all. Again, Geelong will beat the Dogs at home, which puts them into first. Geelong are officially in first place, ladies and gentlemen. How crazy is that? We got the Dons. They probably will beat Richmond at the G, you would think. But Richmond have had a lot of great wins over them in recent years and have really owned them for a long time now. So we'll see on that one. Again, Carlton, I think they'll beat GWS at Marvel. They get a win there. Hawthorn will beat Brisbane at the G. You know what? I'm going to give this win to North. This is a shock win. North are going to beat Collingwood here because North were up by like 60 points at halftime last year and had the biggest choke. I'm gonna back in North to do that. Again, I think Fremantle will beat Port Adelaide there. Adelaide will beat West Coast. Melbourne surprise win at the G, maybe. And Saints maybe surprise win at Marvel as well. I like that. We got a lot of teams getting some good wins here too. A lot of surprises. I think there's so many even teams now that we can't just have a team who's like only won 2 games. So I like that. Again, we got Brisbane. They'll beat Essendon at the Gabba. Collingwood maybe shock win against Hawthorn at the G there. Gold Coast will beat Freo at People's First. GWS will take care of Richmond. Sydney at home will beat Adelaide. Melbourne, I think they play Northern Territory a bit. They should beat the Saints there. And Geelong will beat West Coast at Optus. So that's all good and dandy. Freo's still not in my top 8, which is crazy because I think I tipped them there at the start of the year. Again, with the others now. So what are we on now? Gee whiz. Where's the say of the round? Oh, there it is. Round 13. So we're on round 13. Hawthorn should beat the Dogs, I would think, even though it's at Marvel. Adelaide surprise win against Brisbane. Sydney should beat Richmond, but Richmond did beat Sydney last year. That was a close game though, so that could happen. Geelong will beat Gold Coast at GMHBA. I think Giants will take care of Port. What is Hands Oval? Where is Hands Oval? In South Bunbury in Western Australia. Huh? What the hell? Oh, this must be one of the games they like sold up there because I don't remember Hands Oval anywhere. So that must be one of the games. I mean, yeah, West Coast should beat North in WA, I guess, even though it's a North home game. That's so random. Carlton will beat Essendon. Collingwood will beat, of course, Melbourne. Richmond are last, which is surprising to me because I thought they've had some good wins, but they've got the bye here, which hopefully they don't lose against as a Tigers fan. Again, Dogs will beat Saints. I'm going to back in Hawthorn at Tasmania to beat Adelaide. Brisbane at the Gabba to win. Geelong should beat Essendon. And Freo, is that another home game for North? I think it is, yeah. North play back-to-back WA home games, so Freo should beat them there. Port Adelaide should beat Melbourne at Adelaide Oval. And Carlton should go and beat West Coast up at Optus. So we've also got Fremantle now. They should beat Essendon, I would think. Geelong. We're going to go Carlton at the G. We'll go Sydney to go up and beat Port Adelaide. Collingwood to beat the Saints at Marvel. GWS, or I feel like Gold Coast haven't won in a minute. Their schedule gets so much tougher as the season goes. Gold should take care of Richmond. We're on round 16 now, and this is what the ladder is looking like. This is a really interesting top 8. The Suns are just sticking in. They've only won 2 of their last 5. Geelong are just killing teams at the moment. They look really good on this. Freo's still out of the 8, but not too far out. And again, Carlton have risen up a little bit. The Dogs are falling a tiny bit behind. Again, you've got the bottom 5 teams are pretty much on track to be pretty similar. So that's super interesting right there. Again, I think Collingwood will beat them. You know what? We'll back Richmond in to beat Adelaide at the G, because Richmond went to Adelaide Oval and beat them last year. And I know Adelaide are a little bit better. But yeah, I'm not sure. We'll see on that one. Gold Coast will beat Melbourne at People's First. Sydney to beat the Dogs at the SCG. Could North Melbourne get an upset against Hawthorn at Tasmania? We're going to put it in just because why not? Port Adelaide to beat Carlton. Freo now jumping in the 8. They're actually taking over from Adelaide at Optus Stadium. Again, no more buys now. At GMHBA, Richmond will lose to Geelong. Hawthorn to beat the Saints. I think the Dogs should take care of North at Marvel. Essendon will get a shock win against Gold Coast at Marvel. The G, Collingwood should beat Carlton. Sydney at the SCG. Brisbane at the Gabba. Adelaide at home. And we'll go Giants at Optus. So, wow, you have 5 teams all on the 4 wins, and Melbourne only on 5. So it's a very close bottom finish at the moment. I don't know who's going to get pick 1 in this video, but again, we're going to have Giants beating the Cats here. Dogs get an upset at Mars. Yeah, they should. Sydney should beat the Saints. Carlton upset against Brisbane. Maybe so. North Melbourne versus Melbourne. Melbourne should beat them this time, even though North did most recently win. Essendon will beat Richmond at the G. Gold Coast will go up, will stay up there and beat Collingwood, I should say. Port Adelaide will win at Adelaide. And I think Freo might beat the Hawks. So we'll lock that in. We're now going on to round 19. Towards the end of the year, we've got Geelong at GMHBA. Marvel Stadium, let's lock in Essendon. Surprise, no. Giants should probably win. Carlton should win at the G. Collingwood should also win at the G. Sydney at home. Brisbane at home. Hawthorn at home. Or Gold Coast get an upset win against Adelaide. And West Coast will beat Richmond at home. So yeah, a lot of home wins in that one. Round 20 now. We'll go the Giants to beat Sydney. I'm surprised the Sydney Swans are doing this good on my thing. I actually didn't know I would potentially have them there. So that's good for them. Again, Geelong at Marvel, who still remain first. They are looking really good on my ladder predictor. Or maybe I'm just a really massive Geelong fan for some reason. This ladder predictor video. Again, I think we'll get Saints upset win against Melbourne. We'll also go the Dogs here. Pies should beat Richmond. Hawks should beat Carlton. Brisbane will get the win against Gold Coast. I think Gold Coast won the last one, didn't they? So that's that. Adelaide will beat Port Adelaide. And we'll go a little upset here. West Coast move up to 14th. God damn, I did not expect that at all. Again, Geelong at GMHBA. Saints should beat North. Melbourne should beat West Coast. Giants will go and beat the Dogs. Collingwood will beat Brisbane at the G. Gold Coast will probably smash Richmond there. Sydney should win at the SCG. They're tracking really well. Hawthorn will beat Adelaide at Adelaide. And Freo to go up and beat Carlton, at Optus. Again, Geelong at GMHBA. They just cannot lose on my thing at the moment. Holy crap. Giants get the win. Go Gold Coast to beat Carlton at Marvel. We'll go Richmond beat St Kilda here, because Richmond, I think St Kilda will beat them the first time. I think they'll get them the second time, Richmond, because it's at the MCG now. Again, Melbourne surprise win against the Dogs there. Collingwood versus Hawthorn. I think the Hawks should get the win. Brisbane will beat Sydney at the Gabba. Port Adelaide might get a win on Freo. Adelaide should beat West Coast there. Again, we're on round 23. I think this is the last round. So Ninja Stadium is that is the one in Perth, eh? Oh no, Tasmania, sorry. I don't know. Yeah, well, North should beat Richmond there, which means Richmond will go to last, it looks like. I think Saints or Essendon. You know, we'll go Essendon. They'll beat the Saints. Marvel, we'll have Western Bulldogs win that. Carlton should beat Port at Marvel. Hawthorn should beat the D's. Gold Coast should beat the Giants. Sydney might beat Geelong here. Finally, Sydney get a loss. Collingwood will go and beat Adelaide Oval. Freo to get the win. Oh, which means Adelaide miss out on the 8. Oh my God. There you go, boys and girls. No, this is not. We got one more round. Never mind. Round 24. I thought round 23 was the last round for some reason. And GWS get the win there. Adelaide will win at Marvel. They're back in the 8. I think the Dogs will beat Freo, which means Freo will miss out on the 8. Oh my God. Collingwood will win there. Geelong will beat Richmond at the G. Carlton will beat Essendon. Brisbane should beat Hawthorn at the Gabba. Gold Coast will win at People's First. And then we got the back-to-back game, which is so random, but that's because Gold Coast game got rescheduled. I'm going to imagine Port Adelaide might actually beat them at Adelaide Oval. And then Sydney at Optus. Okay. So that's that. So this is the ladder. I think finals. Where are finals at? How do I go on the finals? You can't click next. I don't know why that is. Oh, go to finals is up there. Okay. So this is the ladder. Geelong at first, Collingwood at second, Giants at third, Hawthorn at fourth, Sydney fifth, Gold Coast sixth, Brisbane seventh somehow. I don't know how they fell that far. I think they got a really tough record. Adelaide 8th, Freo 9th, Dogs 10th, Carlton 11th, Port Adelaide 12th, Melbourne 13th. And look at all these bottom 5 teams so close to each other. Richmond, North Melbourne. So Richmond will have picks 1 and 2, by the way. West Coast, St Kilda, and Essendon. That's if this is true. So we'll go to the finals here. Geelong versus Hawthorn will be at the G. We're going to put that one at the G. That will be a ripping game. I think Hawthorn might get the win. So we'll get Hawthorn to win there. Sydney versus Adelaide, the SCG. I think Sydney will get that win. Gold Coast versus Brisbane. It will be at Gold Coast Stadium. But I think we're going to have Brisbane get the win. I mean, Giants versus Collingwood at home. It's tough, but I actually think the Giants might get the win there. They're pretty good against Collingwood at home. Again, on the semis now, Geelong will beat Sydney. Oh my God. I think it's at the G. I think Brisbane might beat Collingwood, which means that we would have 4th versus 7th, 3rd versus 1st. That will be at the G. I'm going to have Hawthorn getting into the grand final. I think the Giants should beat Geelong at home. And then it's for the flag. Oh, man. It's so tough. Because, like, is Mitch Lewis going to be playing? Is Kel Shadir going to be playing? If so, you got Hawthorn as the winners. If those guys don't play, you're probably going to have Giants as the winners. So, this is pretty crazy. Again, I really don't know. I don't know who's going to win this. Maybe I'll just go Hawthorn. Hawthorn looked pretty goddamn good. I am not angry about that decision at all. But yeah, that was my ladder prediction round by round. Again, let me know if you guys agree with it down below. What would you guys personally change? Of course, it's very hard to know because half these teams, like North could literally somehow make the 8 and I've got them 17th. But you really don't know. We're only in a round 3. It's just I thought a fun video we could do just to see how the season, of course, does play out, potential on how I think it might go, my tips, and where I think the teams will stand. Again, there'll be probably a surprise team or two who are either good or bad. Again, I'd very much like to know all of your thoughts and opinions on this all down below. Don't forget to subscribe to my gaming channel, which will also be getting linked down below. Subscribe to this channel for the latest AFL content and news. And I guess I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.